choice, but I think to take the line that he did, I think otherwise he would have been passed.
He was close this time as well, but didn't quite think to do it. And he's focusing on the exit of turn 2. That's nice.
Closer.
He's got a good run this time. Actually, he's closer this lap than he was lap before, and that forces Nielsen to the inside. That was a brilliant move, but not quite.
Not enough.
No, it was, because he braked too late.
Nielsen
forced him into the mistake.
Makes a mistake, brakes too late. Through goes Antonio Felix da Costa. Sarabovi, go and have a shower. Louise will still be there when you get back, because no one's taken their eyes off this for a moment.
And that was the part of the circuit he needed to overtake him, because through all this twisty stuff, he can start to make progress now. Finally, we see Hertz Team Jota in front of Ferrari, both Ferraris in this race today.
Hertz Team Jota up to 3rd overall for the first time without it being pit stops. Okay, everybody breathe. Louise Beckett is in the Iron Dames garage with Sarah Bovey. There is a GTEM race going on, as we have seen. Let's catch up with them.
Sarah Bovey, we'll start with your race and then we'll talk about what else is going on. You've just finished your stint now. You went back in the car. How was it?
Yeah, indeed. Like, finished with my driving time now. Everything went okay. It's a bit tough on track. The traffic, the hypercar battle is really, really tense, and we can feel it in the way they are coming at us. The start was clearly a bit, messy. I'm just happy that I managed to not get caught in it, and at the end we are doing the race we wanted to do at the moment. So far, no mistakes, a good pace, but we are just in the middle of the race, so we don't really know what to expect. We have had that situation in the past, so I don't want to be happy too early. But at the moment, we all did a great job. Rahel is just on track now for her first stint, and she looks like she has a good pace, so finger crossed that we can push to the end.
I'll let you go and cool down now.
Yeah.
So the gap that they're defending with bronze time done for the Iron Dens, or rather the gap they're attacking, is 1 minute and 26 seconds now to the leader, but the 60 car has not had a second of bronze time yet.
Yeah, that is going to be less their drama than the fact that Alex Riberas in the Northwest AMR Aston Martin is bringing the gap down from 3rd to that 2nd place car. Valfrey just been pinged for track limits as well, so she needs to keep that alive. Nico Baroni being passed now finally by Julian Andlauer. They've both gone by Mike Wainwright in the Gulf GR Racing Porsche, but Andlauer going by Nico Veroni. So is Veroni saving fuel? Comes back on the inside. Take that, Eurota. I'll have that place back. But we've seen some stellar stints from him this year. It seems unusual that so many cars are arriving behind the Corvette and going by, unless the wrong Nico Veroni and the other one is locked in a cupboard somewhere.
I'd like to see a replay of that one. I'm pretty sure he went all 4 wheels over the white line, right over that red and white curb that gave him the slingshot in towards turn 8. If they look back at that in the stewards room, maybe they'll see that as well. Was it gaining a lasting advantage by going all 4 wheels over the white line? I don't know. It looked pretty aggressive to me.
Team might be on the radio going, okay, just let him go on the straight. Tristan Vautier being warned about track limits.
Well, no, under investigation for using track limits. That's the point at which a penalty could come.
Likely to come. Here is the 28 Jota and the 41 WRT going by for 3rd.
2nd.
41. Okay, well, there are 3 blue lights on the 28 Jota, and he's just passed him, so that was a pass for 3rd. So when did somebody disappear that made that 2nd? Either that or Jota's indicator lights aren't working properly. However, be that as it may, WRT are now 1-2 ahead of Jota, and again, Andlauer having to park the car and bounce over the curbs as a penalty has been awarded to the number 4 car.
Look at this replay, Da Costa, so he fooled him into thinking, I'm going to go outside, then went back to the inside, and I don't think Nielsen for one moment knew where to look. Braked a bit too late, halfway towards the inside of the corner, and just ran out too wide. Da Costa went for the cutback.
It was all a bit PK Mansell, that, wasn't it?
Absolutely brilliant. Better than that.
it's the distraction.
They're nicer characters.
For the driver in front, it's the distraction of the car moving in and out of your mirrors that just for few hundredths of a second distracts you from where you've got to be braking your car.
That was absolutely top class.
Gunnar Jeanette in Rexy, the green AO Porsche Project 1 car, and Esteban Masson, I said Etienne Masson, Esteban Masson in the Kessel Racing Ferrari.
Falcon on the balcony. Excellent.
Falcon on the balcon. Lilouadou out of the Richard Mille Racing Team 83 Ferrari.
That's Masson going by Gunnar Jeanette.
Yep.
Fantastic job, by the way, from the AO Racing team. But, I'm afraid poor Rexy had a bit of a broken corner after a bit of a whoopsie in free practice.
Rexy was a bit wrecked.
He was indeed. Could have been extinct at that point. And they did manage to perform archaeological surgery and back on track. Remember, we're battling here for history, battling here for the last ever, not WEC GT AM class win, but the last ever GTE race. Is it possible that might also be the first World Championship race won by an all-female crew? That would be quite some story.
They were performing paleontological surgery.
Oh, yeah, you had to look that up.
No, I didn't.
To criticise
I was looking it up, and I suddenly remembered paleontology is the study of dinosaurs.
Look at you, David Schwimmer.
That's exactly. I was trying to remember exactly that. Exactly that. Paleontologists. There we go. Alpine on board with a 36 car. Not having a great race, Alpine. They're 8th and 10th, and this is not where we used to sit. They just haven't really quite had it that often this season, have they? They just haven't.
There've been too many Alpine valleys rather than Alpine peaks. I'm afraid.
Yes, that's a very good analogy.
And it has been a bit like that. They did have, we know, earlier in the season, one of the two chassis they realised did have an issue, and that was replaced for Le Mans. No further action, by the way, in that incident that we heard Brendan Hartley commenting on.
The first of many, I think I might have hit Mike Wainwright's investigations going
at the
on.
8th 86, no further action on that count. 47th.
Rio Hirakawa is driving.
He is, isn't he?
Leading the way and continuing to extend that lead on the Jose Maria Lopez charge behind, but not really coming to anything now. 47 seconds between the two Toyotas.
And as of now, the points for the number 8 car, it will make it look like a very one-sided battle. However, it will be their second win, third win of the season.
Yeah, because car number
compared
7
to 4 already for the number 7 car.
Yeah.
Number 7 excluded in Portimao because they had a drive shaft sensor fail that is part of the mandatory monitoring system for the FIA and WEC. That was absolutely no fault whatsoever of the drivers. Number 8 car failed. It went red in Spa, and so they had to abandon ship there.
No, they were not disqualified in Portimao, but they were heavily delayed. So they finished
2 points that day in Portimao. But I mean, basically every time so far this season that Car 7 has finished a race unscathed, they've won.
Yeah.
So hence the 4 wins out of 7. But it's looking very unlikely today that they'll be able to catch and pass and win this race. Catch and pass car number 8.
The stumble, of course, was for the Conway Kobayashi Lopez car at Le Mans in that multi-car shot that involved actually one of the Alpines down towards Dunlop.
Yeah, that was a nasty one, wasn't it?
It was horrible.
It was Kobayashi driving at the time, wasn't it, where there was a full course yellow, no, a slow zone, and he got completely smashed into the back of.
And there were 2 of those in the race between the Dunlop Bridge and the end of the S's, and I mean it is something clearly the ACO desperately need to look at before next year, when we've got 68 hypercars and 12 others in the field. So, I mean, it's definitely, and again, absolutely out of their control.
Yeah.
I mean, the driver lineups are absolutely impeccable. Preparation of the cars is exemplary, and the reliability of modern race cars is just something that nobody, when I started going to Le Mans, could ever have contemplated. A car could ever be as reliable as any of these are, never mind all of them.
We're 4 hours 20 minutes into this 8-hour race.
Oh, you're going to say it now, aren't you?
No, what I'm going to say is, just talking about that reliability side of things, every single car in this field is effectively in class position. 11 of the 12 hypercars are first to 11th. The only car in hypercar that's at slightly out of position, now 2 positions into the LMP2 field, is recovering Van Wall, just by the way, we made a pit stop. Then it's all the LMP2s, and then it's all the GTMs, and all 36 cars are running.
And basically the only ones really out of position in their classes are because they've had drive-throughs as penalties. The Van Wall, the Caddy, and a couple of the others. So yeah, it's just been not really being able to put your finger on too much of what's gone wrong with Alpine. They've been there or thereabouts, but
second
really,
on grid.
Yeah, but not really on the podium in much of a podium. You just don't feel they've been contenders this year as often as you would have expected. But then sort of United went through that slump last year to a degree, didn't they? After the 22 car won everything, including the national lottery, you know, they sort of had a bit of a slump. Hey, once a fan, always a fan.
If you're going to answer that phone, you're going to have to put it the other side of the fence, Valley.
See that? But he's just going to be putting this up on social media because he's just such a fan of motorsport.
I can tell you from that camera angle, he's a much better GT driver than he is a photographer. One bit of an update, by the way, on the number 60 car. Matteo Cressoni now back aboard that car. 3 hours 38 minutes to go, and 2 hours 20 of that has to be served by Claudio Schiavone.
It's going to be tough, and they are. I think they're just going to have to put him in at the end. Pit stop now for the 36 Alpine. 35 has just cleared the garage, and the 33 Corvette being told to give the place back to the Dempsey Proton car. So Nico Veroni, who, as Anthony pointed out, passed over the white lines to go by the 77 car. I sort of thought the team would probably tell him, mate, you better give the place back on the next straight. I said as much. They obviously didn't, but the stewards have said, no, you actually do need to. So they've obviously had a bit of an argument about it and lost the argument. Okay, now we'll give the place back.
Yeah, 5th place, by the way, for the 77 was the 33. Now back to the Proton competition car.
2 reasons for arguing it rather than immediately rolling over having your tummy tickled. 1, you hold up the, quote, ostensibly faster car for longer while you're arguing the toss, and then even if you do have to give it back, you haven't lost anything.
Absolutely.
So, you know, if Veroni is on a long lift and coast fuel-saving strategy, holding up a car that isn't by arguing is, arguing on track and in the stewards room, is a good strategy. There's number 10 Vector Sport car in. Their race hasn't gone the way they'd hoped, has it? That penalty early on has really taken a bit of the wind out of their sails.
Apart from that infringement, they've had a really strong race in terms of race pace itself. So yeah, one that definitely got away from them today. Maybe not quite the victory, but I think they were knocking on the door of a podium, certainly.
Well, they led very comfortably until the penalty, and that was for a pit lane infringement. It was not anything that the drivers had done. It was just tyres below the minimum tyre pressure required by Dunlop, by Goodyear, who supply the tyres.
I mentioned this while we were watching the WRT pit stops. It's going to be plural underway. Is the gap 2nd to 3rd? So Jose Maria Lopez to Felix da Costa is coming down, not by a lot, but it is coming down. So da Costa is absolutely flying right now.
What is going on with car number 7. Yes, the gap's gone back up. It's gone up to 50.5 seconds.
Well, there's two things going on. Rear Hirakawa is absolutely
storming.
And so is Da Costa.
Yes.
And Pichita, what can the 7 crew do? They can't catch on pace. They've got to do something else. Toyota 1-2 still in the Batco Energies 8 hours of Bahrain, the season finale in the World Endurance Championship. Here is the 50 Ferrari, the number 6 Proton Porsche closing in from behind. Closed. He is almost within touching region. So there's the 51 car. All sorts of balances of power are swinging and swaying. Now, some will be on more used tyres, some will be on less used tyres. Don't forget, Toyota also still need to factor in 4 medium tyres per car, which have much less tyre life than the hards that everybody else has, because they qualified on mediums. They still haven't used any. They still have to use them.
Did Jose Maria Lopez definitely have the hards when he jumped into the car?
That's a possibility.
Have they staggered this? That's the only explanation for...
I was talking about this to Will and Antonio Felix da Costa, and they were saying, I was saying, if it was me, I'd start on softs, they heat up faster, you'll be 1-2, you'll hold up the other guys for as long as possible, minimise the damage before you get into traffic. They said, no, what they'll do is they'll use them as right-side tyres, as pairs, and that's entirely possible, but they're going to have to start doing it soon, or they're going to be committed to full sets of mediums.
Yeah, it's 1:31, the last stop, so that was clearly a tyre stop in that putting Pichita into the car, but what tyres?
Yeah, maybe, I mean, the car 7 doesn't really have that luxury if it were to go wrong by putting all 4 mediums on.
No.
But I do think the Hirakawa car number 8, that does have enough of a gap now to try it. I think they can drive around slow enough to make the tyres last the distance they need.
But they don't need to use all 4 in a go. They can use them as right sides and then right sides.
They can do that.
The fact that it's done 3 or 4 laps on the left side doesn't make the tyre asymmetric. It's a symmetrical tyre, so you can, as long as it's rotating in the right direction, you have to remount it on the rim, but you can do that and keep them as right sides only.
Coming back into this, by the way, Andre Lotra and number 6 Porsche catching Antonio Giovinazzi, who seems to be struggling this phase of the race a little.
The only counter-argument to that one, they are directional, the Michelin tyres.
Yeah, but they're not asymmetric. So you don't just take the left tyre off.
They are asymmetric. They are.
They? So inside
you can't just start swapping them, flipping them round on the rim.
Can't put the rights on the left.
Exactly. They are. They're asymmetric.
Well, there's the answer. Thank you very much in the truck for listening. Everybody is still on hards, so it's a little bit like the 60 Iron Lynx car that leads in GTEM. Their pain is yet to come if and when Claudio Schiavone is fit to start the race. And for Toyota, their pain is to come because they've got to work in some mediums. Proton have got 1 medium on the car at the moment. Antonio Giovinazzi, Andre Lotra. Obviously, somebody has poked the bear with a stick in the number 6 car. Not that Andre Lotra often needs much poking to be aggressive. Right now, he and Antonio Felix da Costa seem to be the 2 hypercar drivers with the most to prove.
There is that. There's no Roger Penske here this weekend, by the way.
No,
NASCAR
Tim
this
Cindric is here.
Okay.
Yeah, Tim Cindric here, Roger Penske. I mean, if this race was on, you see, the time zone is a bit of a killer, even for Super Rog to get back. Is it the season finale of NASCAR?
Phoenix this weekend.
Okay, so not quite. Getting close.
But yeah, this is interesting watching the Porsche, the Penske Porsche, catching now car 51 that ran in 2nd place and then 3rd place for so long in this race today, now slipping back into the clutches of Lotterer. And
it shows you how much the Penske team have learned about this car, racing it in WEC and in IMSA, doubling their knowledge, more than doubling their knowledge, is that early in the season, they'd look great in the first stint and disappear out the back door in the second. Now, they've really got a handle of that. Esteban Guerrieri takes over from Tristan Vautier in the van wall, and their target is to complete the entire race. They want to get this car to checkered flag. Ryan Briscoe saying it feels so totally different to what he's driven before in hypercar, but he said it's got a good basis, stiff chassis, it's a good platform, it is down on power.
Because from the wear of the previous stint, we have to look after the rear right for a double stint. We finish with almost no tires remaining in the rear left, rear right.
Okay, but that's what you don't want the tyres to have any life at the end of the stint. Always Colin Chapman used to say the perfect Formula One car falls apart at the finish line.
To complete the point on NASCAR, it is indeed the NASCAR finale.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Kobayashi, by the sounds of it, would have been losing. I wondered why the gap started to go up between himself and the car number 8 at the time, is because he had just eaten through too much of that right rear tyre. And yes, okay, of course, in terms of structural rigidity and safety, it's fine.
Yeah.
But as soon as you go through the compound, which is actually quite a thin layer of rubber on top of the carcass of the tyre, as soon as you eat through that and you go to through the wear holes that they put in them, you really start to lose grip, hand over fist, and that's what the information coming Jose's way was. Look, it's fine now, but really keep an eye, because we're double stinting these tyres. The journey's long. And you can hear from the car number 38 coming up here with Da Costa driving.
We are going to give you 3 tires. We are going to give you 3 tires next pit stop. So left-hand side and the rear right.
Okay, so right front will remain on, which is the least hard worked. Wear holes. Now, when you think of a slick tyre, think of it being a completely smooth rubber surface, and you're almost right. If you get another shot in a garage of a brand new slick, there are, you know where you've got your tread on a road tyre and they measure the depth to see that it's still legal? Well, we don't have those grooves on a tri-tyre, but they do have little holes, half the width of your fingernail, dotted around regularly on the tread pattern, and that shows you how much wear there has been, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to tell. The resistance to slick tyres being introduced by Goodyear was that the drivers associated a bald tyre with no grip and a fatal crash, and they could not get their heads around for several years. A couple of years, Goodyear were trying to introduce a racing slick in the Crossway era. Drivers wouldn't have it because it had no tread, and they couldn't gauge how worn they were until suddenly they blew. That's not a case anymore, but that's what a wear hole is.
And you're only ever going to get slick tyres working on a racetrack when you're driving very quickly. They're not very good, as you've seen with this new rule of no tyre warmers. They're not very fast when you come out with cold temperatures. So on a road car, that's why we don't have them. You need to have cut tyres on a road car for them to work in all kinds of conditions. But because of the constant friction that you go through and loading that you go through in a race tyre, that's where you get your grip from on a slick tyre. You need to heat them up, make them pliable, malleable to make them work. And the reason for it working in a race car is because a slick tyre has more contact patch. Think of it like if you put your fingers, only just your fingers on a table, and you try to put pressure on them and move it forwards, actually your hand slides quite easily. That's a groove tyre. Put your whole palm of your hand on the table and try and put a lot of pressure down and then move it, that's a slick tyre. But it has to be warm to do its job.
Just looking at the classes as we watch the ebb and flow in hypercar, and that really has been ebb and flow in this race. And the strangest thing has been that the ebb and flow for the Porsches has differed between the factory-run Porsche Penske Motorsport cars and both of the privateer-run cars. In GTM, the interesting moment here is Rahel Fry still 1 minute and 29 seconds back from the Iron Lynx car that leads, but again, no bronze time yet burned. Just over an hour before that has to start.
Again, we're looking behind the Iron Dames at Northwest AMR's Alex Riberas in third, and he is now down to 4 seconds behind the pink Porsche. Behind him, another 25 seconds back, Casper Stevenson, the D-Station Racing Aston Martins. Don't forget that Aston Martin very nearly locked out the front row. It was only the exceptional run of Sarabovi in the Iron Dames Porsche that denied the D-Station car its pole position. D-Station are in 4th place with Casper Stevenson. Dempsey Proton's Julian Andlauer now up to 5th. He's not gold, is he? He's platinum, isn't he? Is he still gold? But either way, I mean,
Ben Viscal going for move here.
A talent.
Good position.
Yep, that's
on Robin Freins.
Place.
Yep, he's caught and passed Robin Freins here. So clearly, different tyre age at play here, and there was nothing that Robin Freins could do to stop that attack from Ben Viscal.
Yeah, so WRT were 1st and 2nd before the last round of pit stops. United's 23 car, the pole sitters, now back at the top of the pile. Prema up into 2nd. Ben Viscal down to 3rd is Robin Freins. Mirko Bortolotti, the 2nd Prema car, is closing in 4th place, and then the 2nd WRT car in 5th position. Jota's 28 car in 6th. Ahead of interior pole Vector and the 22 United car that had that drive-through penalty, stop and hold penalty after causing a contact at the first corner.
Julian Andlauer is a gold-ranked driver by the FIA. Yes.
Yeah. Now then, next year we are going to have very likely a team, 2 teams probably, possibly, of World Endurance Champions in hypercar, because we'll have number 8, number 7, both of whom have won titles, maybe not in the same year, but have won titles. Very likely to have, at least somewhere on the grid, a 9-time motorcycle world champion. Very likely, it seems increasingly the case, to have at least one Formula 1 world champion rather than ex-driver. Where else can we find? We need a rally champion. Sebastian Loeb, answer the clarion call. Come on. He's not past it yet, as his exploits occasionally in a rally car have shown. Yes, Sebastian Ogier struggled to get his head around the LMP2 car from Sebring onwards last season, and kind of went, nah, that's just
You've got another.
working.
You've missed one.
What am I thinking of? What am I?
Well, he's actually running 2nd place at the moment in this race.
Oh yeah, multiple world touring car champion. Well, we had Andy Prio as well in the Ford era, so he was a world touring car champion. Well, other ones are
Is Pachito still one of only 2 drivers to have won FI World Championships in different disciplines?
Oh, that's a very good shout.
Solberg is the other, I think.
Rallying and rallycross.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
that's a very good shout. Yeah, Pachito, bizarre story in World Touring cars. He tested Reed in the Proton racing cars.
Yep.
And the 2 Felbermeyers, Horst Senior and Junior.
Yep.
And now Horst the 3rd is racing.
Yes.
So it was Felbermeyer Proton, it's now Dempsey Proton. Patrick Dempsey, still very keen part of the team. And of course, one of the cars they ran in the European Le Mans Series and at Le Mans was with Irish actor Michael Fassbender. Now, he's not here this weekend, but he is racing.
He is.
So, Michael Fassbender is racing this weekend, not in the Porsche Super Cup, not in a Carrera Cup, he's not in a Porsche of any kind. Michael Fassbender is racing in a 6-hour endurance race with ex-Formula 1 driver Tommy Byrne and ex-Formula 1 driver
David Kennedy.
So an all-Irish lineup in a 6-hour race at Mondello Park in a Fiesta. If it starts the race, I'll be surprised, because that means somebody has dragged them out of the pub. That sounds like the most fun you can have
In motorsport,
and who knew
absolutely.
that Fassbender knew either Tommy Byrne or DK? I mean, it's a small world after all. But
They're both fanboys. They're both massive Magneto fans.
Absolutely. That is 3 legs of a fun stool. It's just absolutely exceptional.
Fabulous stuff. And Michael, real entertainment in the European Le Mans Series. That's programme at an end. We wait to see. I believe he will be taking a sabbatical this coming year. But I hope you come back, Michael, if you're listening or watching.
I think he said he is very, very keen to do more racing, but you know, he has got another career that does a little bit like Patrick Dempsey. You can only leave Hollywood so long before it thinks about leaving you. Riding with Richard Westbrook in the number 2 caddy. Westbrook, a race winner here back in 2005 in the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup supporting the Bahrain Grand Prix. That car was run by AUTOCLUTCH Racing. AUTOCLUTCH Racing still here, running Porsches ever since in the Middle East, and now proudly running and supporting Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East, which had its first ever races yesterday evening and this morning. And they will be supporting Formula 1 Grand Prix here in Bahrain and in Saudi Arabia at the end of their season. But Westbrook in yet another top flight international sports car drive. He was part of Ford's stellar program with the GT, and here he is in the Caddy. All right, they haven't had the race they'd hoped for, having had their best ever qualifying run to third on the grid, but sometimes it comes for you and sometimes it treats you nicely. So today is just a tough day at the office, and Anthony Davidson, there are more than those, more of those than good days, I guess, when you're a racing driver, unless your name is Max or Lewis, probably.
Well, yeah, you're always hard on yourself as a driver until you're standing on the top step. You know, you're your own worst critic, really, in that respect, and you need to convince yourself that you're doing 100% the job you should be doing. Sometimes before you gain that the confidence you really need to be super quick. You're jumping into action, Graham. What are you getting excited about?
Another 90-second stop and go penalty for another leading car, an LMP2. Happened to the 10 Vector Sport car early in the race. The 23 car that's fought its way back to the lead of the race gets a 90-second stop and go penalty for a technical infringement. Is that the same thing?
If it is the same thing, here is my theory. So you have the tyres fitted.
Were you just bitten by a squirrel?
No, an elk. My theory, by an elk, brackets misses. You pressurise the tyre with nitrogen, you have it fitted, you set the pressure, it sits in the shade and cools down. So they've pressurised it when the day was warmer, it's now cooler. What differential below the bare minimum were we talking about with the number 10? And is it the same penalty? I shall ask again.
I think we should ask the question. It's extraordinary we've had two teams, if it is the same issue, making the same mistake. These are really experienced teams.
Fernando Alonso is also being pointed out to me as an FIA world champion in two different types of motorsport.
Okay.
He won in
Formula 1. You're perfectly right.
So three.
I was just trying to remember who he was, but I think he's quite famous.
This is a strange one though for the United Autosport team. I wonder if it is the same. I mean, it could be. It's a whole array of possibilities, isn't it? Technical infringement. Looking at the number 23 United Autosport car, came in from first place out on track in LMP2. That's now been handed over to the Prema Racing team, car number 9, Ben Viscal, who's absolutely flying out there.
They've had a great race so far, haven't they? Really good one.
But this United Autosport car we've just been talking about is under investigation for...
No, it's not under investigation.
It has got the 90-second penalty for a technical infringement. Now, when did that happen? What has happened? Because...
Is it the tyre pressures again?
Such a well-polished team that I can't believe would make such an elementary mistake like that. And an area of the car that is controlled by the tyre...
I think we're about to find out.
...manufacturer anyway.
Let's hear from Louise Beckett in the pit lane, Lou.
It's just been confirmed by the team it is tyre pressures that's the reason for the technical infringement.
All right, thank you very much. That is bizarre, isn't it? And it is Vector and United, not the 22 car that's in the battle here with the Vector car, but the 23 car.
Well, you've got to say, is it going to affect the 22 as well? Same team.
I think they'll be double checking things.
Well, drama, big drama for United Autosports, as it was earlier for Vector Sport. Vector Sport, by the way, who were leading and leading very well, 40 seconds to the good, after that 90 seconds, to give you an idea of what the effect that had on them. Down into 8th position and have not moved much from there. 23, by the way, has just come through what is its regular pit stop, but will need to stop again. That is going to drop them to the back of the field.
Well, we said at the time it's a race destroying penalty, isn't it? 90 seconds. It's you're lapped by the leaders in that time. So yeah, so I mean, you are playing with fire. If that's intentional, you're playing with fire because you have tyre pressure monitoring system within the tyre in these cars. You can see it when you're driving. You can see the pressures at all times.
Let's all listen to what Lou's got something for us down in pit lane.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that they worked so hard, didn't they, to get to the front of the field, and Josh Pearson got out of the car and his dad was there, just gave him a big hug. His shoulders were down. You can just imagine, after all that hard work, how he felt.
Is there any explanation from the team as to how that's gone on?
I can't hear you very well, Graham, but no, all they've said to me is tyre pressures.
Okie dokie. Right, we'll investigate a little further and see if they're monitored live in the FIA data bus.
I should imagine it is. You know, if the team can see this information, I'm sure the FIA can as well. At the end of the day, that rule is in place because of safety. And the tyre manufacturers set those pressures themselves, you know, the threshold of the pressure that you can run in the tyre themselves, because they know their tyre better than anybody else, and they set these barriers in place because if you run the tyre too soft in its construction, it starts to wear the shoulder of the tyre, and eventually that extra flexibility can break apart the tyre, and you can have a catastrophic tyre failure just from running it too soft. So they're serving their penalty here just as Jarvis gets back behind the wheel of the number 23.
Also on pit lane, Proton Competitions number 99, 7th place for the car that was right up at the sharp end, wasn't it, for a while? I said there's been ebb and flow in this race, and we're getting into a period of time here, Anthony, where the heat is going a little bit out of the day. It's not a dramatic heat change here.
You'll see it more in the surface of the track than a scruffy pit stop from the left rear of that Proton number 99 car. Wheel gun just not going on cleanly. And you know, it's hard work. It's so frantic for these mechanics down there changing the tyres, because they're having to run around the car, kind of NASCAR style. It's not like Formula 1 where you can just throw personnel at it. It's a very different rule set in sports car racing, in the World Endurance Championship at least, where you can only have 4 people across that white line at any one time. So you end up having people running around the car, and you have to be very agile to make a quick pit stop.
And very well choreographed, because you can't have a guy cleaning the screen then getting caught up in the hose and so on and so forth. So they have to work it out. I do understand actually that as well as being live monitored in the FIA data bus, the tyres are checked obviously by the tyre manufacturers as they come off the cars to see what was the starting pressure, why is the finishing pressure so high, or conversely so low, what about the wear and everything else. It's for the data for the tyre company, but the live monitoring is like in Formula 1. There's a minimum recommended pressure and there's a minimum mandated pressure below which you may not go. So I think that's what we're seeing here. So for whatever reason, the tyre pressures, while they've been on the car, either immediately they were fitted or somehow during the stint have dropped.
This is a good fight here between Fred Makawiki that we're riding on board with, car number 5, in the Penske Porsche, and in front of him is the Peugeot of 93 of Paul Di Resta. Gets him on pure traction at the exit of turn 10 on fresher tyres, no doubt, is number 5.
Got a lot of traffic ahead here, 60 car.
Di Resta has to yield that one and let Makawiki through.
So 2 GT cars on the van wall between the two, still for Makawiki to deal with.
And that yellow Porsche, the 60 car, Iron Lynx, still leading in GT-YAM. The pink Porsche, the Iron Dames, still in second place, still about a minute and a half behind, but opening up the gap now over the chasing Aston Martin of Alex Riveras. It was down to 8, just a fraction under 8 seconds. Ralph Frey's now opened it up to 10 seconds, and a further 13 back is Casper Stevenson, and he's about a minute ahead of Nico Baroni, who's in 5th place in the Corvette. So Rahul Frey has dealt with that pressure from the closing Aston Martins, and now is starting to ease the Iron Dames nose just a little further out of the real danger zone in 2nd place. And still no word on when we're going to see Claudio Schiavone, who is Mr. Iron Lynx. It's his entire operation, basically. The team were allowed to change the starting driver, which was due to be Claudio. They claimed force majeure. He was not well enough to start the race. The question is, will he be well enough to compete at all? We haven't seen him in the car yet. We've got 3 hours and 6 minutes to go. He's got to drive 2 hours and 20 minutes of that.
In 34 minutes, we'll know whether or not they've got a chance.
Yeah. And if not, they'll have to park the car at that moment.
I sincerely hope he's well enough to drive.
I really hope so.
That's a rotten way to finish a campaign and an era that they've contributed so much to.
Yeah. Well, of course, it'll be just the end of this particular chapter. They will return. They will be running Lamborghini's hypercar and its GTE car program. So,
well, I can tell you, I mean, talking to Christian Reed in the conversation where we talked about him stepping away from the driving seats, we also talked about the astonishing array of Porsche 911 RSRs they have effectively in the garage. They have 16 of them.
Has he just kept everyone he's raced?
Well, yes, he has, and that includes championship-winning cars, ex-factory cars, Le Mans-winning cars, IMSA championship-winning cars, big race-winning cars, cars that Michael Fassbender's driven, etc., etc. His Le Mans winning car, etc. So the original 2017 Screamers, that is the dive bomb from the 28 on the 41, Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been wearing him down over a couple of laps. And I think you've got Louis Delatraz just probably hanging on to that set of tyres. Whenever you see quite a disparity in time, in lap times between the LMP2 cars, you know that they're out of sync with who's got the better tyres. So in a way, it becomes a bit of a virtual race. And if you've got a driver behind you with the better tyres at that stage, your mission becomes just trying your best to stay in front for as long as you can to halt their progress.
Well, that was the end of WRT's most recent run as 1st and 2nd cars in LMP2. Don't forget, the last time we talked about them, they were 4th and 6th in LMP2. So there's all sorts of different tyre strategies and especially fuel strategies working at the moment.
Nice slow-mo shot of turn 10. It always happens so quickly, and it's funny when you're inside the car though, that corner 9 into 10, it's such a delicate process. Oh, and that was a bit too close for comfort, wasn't it?
Ollie Jarvis on the curbs on the inside and barely a car's width away from him, Mirko Bortolotti. Bortolotti definitely trying to keep the door closed there on Jarvis.
Jarvis, I think, trying to unlap at that point. I think he's a lap down, isn't he, on that car?
Yeah, they're last in LMP2 now after that penalty.
Yeah. The final point, by the way, about that astonishing collection of Porsche 911 RSRs is the one car he is prepared to consider selling is indeed Claudio Schiavone's car, because Claudio wants to buy it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. You can't argue with that, can you? Lila Wadu being warned about abusive track limits, so she's had all her warnings, and a warning flag means if you do it again, it will be a drive-through penalty.
I'm sure I just saw Lilu getting out of the car.
That was a stint ago. So there's somebody else has been in for a single. She's back in now for a single. So I think they're doing single, 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 single. Was it Simon Mann doing his final stint in the car? I think it might possibly.
Oh, Delatraz under attack though, just as we went to the other camera angle.